We are now live. We are now live on the Red Pill Diaries. No intro, no nothing. We're going to bring in my friend and colleague, Mr. Larry Johnson, because we know he's busy. So how's it going this morning, Larry?
I'm well, brother. We're all busy, aren't we?
Good, good. Larry, I was just reading one of your articles, and then I looked at. I was listening to a snippet of an interview that you gave to Sputnik News,
Uh-huh.
and you were talking about the release of these missiles. First of all, I have to say this. I was just telling my son behind the door, man, you do an excellent job in your analysis on things that are going on.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate that.
and and the article in Sputnik News, it says NATO risks hot war with Russia as Biden molds stepping on Ukraine's long-range missile tripwire. Larry, we know that we're up for an election, but isn't this sheer madness? Because what if Russia were to arm a rebel group in say from Mexico that wants Texas back? How would
Yeah.
America respond to that, especially if Russia says, "Oh, you know what? We're going to give them some Iskander missiles."
Yeah. We'd view it as an act of war, and we'd be on the attack. Uh, you know, what really bothers me is the you there's n- there are no there's not another side to this debate in this country. It's just basically Russia's the enemy, and there's no other way to view it. No, the, we talk about Russia and Putin in ways that we never talked about the Soviets and say Brezhnev or Yuri Andropov
Mm-hmm.
or Gromyko. I mean, and they were far worse. I mean, by any objective standard in terms of political repression, meddling in foreign affairs of other countries. They were very aggressive at that, and yet we still found a way to talk to them and to negotiate with them and to coexist. But this current crew that occupies D.C., whether it's the Democrats or Republicans, are hell bent on starting a fight with Russia. And I admit there's a part of me that wants us to do it just so we get our ass kicked and maybe come back and knock some sense into us. That we'll stop with all this crazy trash talking. But I'm afraid, we're not going to learn. So we're going to learn the hard way. That's the only way we're going to learn if we survive it.
These people in Washington, it seems like they don't care. And not just Washington, but in Brussels and London, it seems like they don't care that they're pushing the world to the brink of a thermonuclear disaster, and they keep upping the ante. And they want and they are, to me, it seems like they disrespect the level of common sense that everybody has because they continue to regurgitate the same lies, the same lines, and the same mantra that nobody really believes. Are they
Well,
that detached from reality and that insane for power that they're willing to push the world to the brink of thermonuclear war?
well, I'm going to give you $509.52 worth of reasons. Now, that's the current price for Northrop Grumman Corporation stock.
Mm,
$509. It's down to almost $11 today. Okay,
mhm,
but why that's interesting is back in 2020, at the start of 2022, it was about $350. In other words, it's gone up over $200 since
mm,
the start of this war. Um, Same thing for Lockheed Martin. Same thing for Raytheon Corporation. There are people getting wealthy off the deaths of all these Ukrainian soldiers, and it's all about the money. They say all about the Benjamins. This is, follow the money. Uh, that's why the United States wants to continue this conflict. It's adding dollars into people's pension plans. It's making people wealthy. And we're not suffering any cost. Hey, none of us are dying. One or two maybe, but that's nothing. So what I fear is we're gonna stumble into a war where all of a sudden we're going to have, tens of thousands of American casualties potentially, if not more. It's something that we've never, the reality is, Rashid, we've the only war where we fought and really lost a significant number of people, one that really hurt, was World War One. And we were only in that for like a year, half year, but we suffered, proportionally, just a horrific number of casualties in that very short period of time. World War Two, I challenge you and your listeners and viewers, go try to do a search to figure out how many American military personnel died in World War Two. Nobody knows. I've seen numbers as low as 250,000 and as high as 470. What I find shocking is we don't know. I mean, the record keeping must have been just abysmal. But when you put that proportion of loss, and let's take the highest number, 470, and you put that in terms of what the total U.S. population was then, that meant about less than one out of every 100 Americans died in that war. Whereas with the Russians, it was 16 out of 100. Well, when you lose that many people, you are less reluctant to get into a big scrape. Whereas here in the United States, it's all we've really done is made money off these wars. So hell, let's push another one. And while we're at it, let's fight Iran and China too. Yeah, more money.
Well, wouldn't that put the people in office, the people who are pushing these policies, on the same level as say, a Hitler or a King Leopold, not caring about the massive loss of life for the sake of profit over lives and power over lives?
I like to think of them more as pimps and drug dealers. Okay, that's what those politicians are: pimps and drug dealers. The only thing they don't have is like the lavender suit with all the gold chains and stuff. But they really are. The other part of this is they get wealthy too. Look at the record. Someone brought this up the other day with about Dick Cheney. They were talking, oh, Cheney's endorsed Kamala Harris. And I thought, Cheney is emblematic. He's a living example of what's wrong with Washington. Because, he came to Washington, D.C. as a fat kid in his 20s. And here's the man who's always eager to send other people's children to war. But boy, he wasn't about to sign up for Vietnam. I mean, he was, we need to stop those commies, just everybody but me. Because I'm going to stay back. I'm going to have my 2 martini lunches and 3 packs of cigarettes. And that's exactly what he did. Because a friend, a very, very good friend of mine who's now deceased, a fellow named Bruce Bradley. Well, Bruce was Cheney's boss from like 1972 to 1970, September of 74. And Bruce hired Cheney because Don Rumsfeld, who Bruce knew, Bruce had been a congressional staffer to a member of the Kansas delegation. And at the time, Rummy was a congressman out of Michigan, I believe. And so Bruce and Rummy used to play racquetball, once a week or so. So they're buddies. And Rummy called him up and goes, "Hey, I got this young man. I need to get him a job." So Bruce, created a make work job for Dickie Cheney, and Cheney would spend his lunch hours, sucking down martinis and smoking his cigarettes, and using his Vietnam deferment. By God, he wasn't going to go fight and die. Not for him. Then he goes on. He becomes chief of staff for Gerald Ford, because Rumsfeld was in a position to make that happen. And then, he runs for Congress, gets out of Congress, and gets on the right committees where he can do the favors for people like Halliburton. Then he leaves Congress and goes to work for Halliburton, makes millions. So there's the career path. Go to Washington, pimp yourself out. I mean, run your ladies, sell your drugs. Only in this time, you're selling favors into Washington D.C., and you're selling, getting other nations to buy your military equipment. Then you make some money, and so Dick Cheney, he's a millionaire, multimillionaire. Hey, his daughter Liz, she is too. She's worth like $30 million. You think these people ever worked at like a Walmart or did a real job somewhere? Hell no. No. So, and it's not just the Obamas, the Clintons, the Bushes, the Romneys. I mean, there's Mitt Romney, another character. This generational, it's our own form of royalty. You go, you get into politics, get to Washington, get all the insider deals, and then go make money. And so, the Ukraine is just another vehicle for making money.
So, at the expense of lives, and this is one of the things that I talk about on the show. These people, they have to be detached from reality, and they have to be either sociopaths or something close to that, because if you lose $1, you can make $1 back. But if you lose a life, you can never replace that life. My cat is coming through here.
Right.
Get back that way, baby. My little cat, my cat is coming through here. But why has nobody challenged them on this matter? Why is nobody challenging them on the fact that they are in essence pawning people's lives for profit and benefit? Go back this way.
Well, I mean, again, they're making the money, and nobody in the United States is really suffering because of it. I mean, we got inflation. We're put ourselves in a major debt, but nobody on a daily basis is actually suffering, or not too many people. I mean, if you live in the inner city of the major cities, yeah, you're suffering. High crime, drug use, homelessness. You're experiencing that. But if you're out happily in the suburbs, you don't have to worry about that. So that's why it can go on, because nobody's really suffering. Nobody's paying a price.
Well, Larry, back to the Russia thing. They are pushing the world to the brink of war over ego, over profit, and over positions of power. And we already have established that there are no adults in the room. But these people have their finger on the nuclear button. Who will stand up and be a man or woman and say, stop, enough is enough? Or if they don't do that, the next step is Russia's, because everybody has a limit. My mom used to say, you can kick an old dog 99 times and it never bites, but you kick it 100 times and it may jump up and bite you. So they've been kicking Russia so long. Russia's patience will come to an end, or China's patience will come to an end, because all of this provocation The world is looking at a desperate
Yeah.
declining empire that is trying to provoke people. Where's that leading us?
No, to a nuclear bomb. That's where it's going. The the West, and I'm convinced, the political leadership here in the United States, with maybe one or two exceptions, but they're rare, they interpret Russia's failure to respond up to this point as weakness and fear. And it's anything but. They're, being patient is very different from being fearful. And it's one thing, you can sit there and you can keep finger poking somebody in the chest and, hey man, I don't want to fight you. You keep poking them. Hey man, I don't want to fight you. And then, after the 15th time that you poke them in the chest, all of a sudden, okay, they break your nose and dislocate your jaw. Then you say, well, why'd you do that? Well, you finger poked me 15 times. I told you to stop, and you didn't stop. So that's where we're at. I think they're going to approve letting Ukraine launch ATACMS, JSAMs, anything else long range, maybe Storm Shadows, farther into Russia, to hit Russia energy resources, to hit Russian military bases, try to hit some factories. They're going to kill civilians. When that happens, I'm not going to say if that happens. I said when that happens, then this war is going to get kicked into a new dimension. Russia has issued that warning, and then at that point, targets outside of Ukraine, I think, will become viable targets. Hope I'm wrong. Really hope I'm wrong.
I want you to listen to this 3-minute clip here from RT, and it's about what you just talked about. Here it is.
So, U.S. President Joe Biden says Washington is working out the details to give Kiev the green light to strike deep into Russian territory, an act of war previously banned by America.
Will you lift restrictions on the use of long-range weapons by Ukraine?
We're working that out right now.
Well, it's a big political game, if you will, with human lives being as game pieces in this particular situation, because weapons of all kinds have been used by Ukraine to attack Russian territory. And hundreds, if not thousands, of civilians have already been killed in Belgorod, in Donetsk, in Zaporozhye, Kherson, and other areas of Russia. Now, they are saying that this is going to be a big game changer if Ukraine is allowed to do long-range strikes. But really, this is all, of course, happening while the State Secretary of the United States, Anthony Blinken, is about to visit Ukraine along with his UK counterpart, David Lammy. So they're making this big tour for the press.
It's one thing to talk about supplying these long-range weapons and giving Kiev the green light to strike deep inside Russian territory, but we all know that up and down the front lines, the Ukrainian offensive and the Ukrainian military is just collapsing right now. And you've spent so much time near the front lines, all up and down the region. What can you tell us?
Well, at the moment, the front line for Ukraine, for example, in the republics of Donbass, in Lugansk and Donetsk, it's completely collapsing. Right now, every single day, Russian army is making gains in Donetsk People's Republic, for example. Over the last 24 hours, they gained at least 130 square kilometers of territory.
Yep.
But these type of news, they go muted in the Western world, and nobody talks about that. But what they like to talk about is how to use long-range missiles deep into Russian territory. But how is that going to change the situation? It's very unclear, because, and once again, this is all a big game, a lot of saber rattling, if you will, but with absolutely nothing behind it. For example, we have another soundbite here from the Defense Secretary of the United States, Mr. Austin, who confirms what I just said, that these long-range missiles will not make any change. Let's take a listen.
We said all along, Uta, there's no no one capability that will, in and of itself, be decisive in this campaign. You know, we had this discussion about tanks. We had this discussion about other capabilities, and each time we point out that it's not just one thing; it's a combination of capabilities and how you integrate those capabilities to achieve objectives. So I don't believe that one specific capability is going to be decisive.
One thing that everybody tends to forget about in this situation is the cost of all this, and the cost is human lives. Civilians die every single day in Russia as a result of these attacks. But if this situation goes through and Ukraine is officially allowed to use ATACMS deep into Russian territory, and we have the example of them, of their terrorist attacks where a lot of civilians are getting killed, and Russia is forced to respond, what is that going to lead to eventually? And it's not going to lead to peace, that's for sure.
Harold Turner is reporting that these it has been approved by the U.S. and the U.K. to use those weapons into Russia. First of all, that's an act of war. Second of all, we know that Ukraine cannot possibly be skilled enough to use those weapons on their own. Just having them given to them, they have to be trained on those. So for those weapons to be used, as Vladimir Putin stated, that they would have to have U.S. and NATO troops for guidance and for everything else, pretty much. When these missiles are used, don't you think that the roof will blow off of the Ukraine crisis and we'll really see what's really going on, what's been bubbling underneath, and Russia will be forced, Vladimir Putin's hand will be forced to strike outside of Ukraine? Yeah,
I think that's where it's headed. And again, it's the West has concluded that Russia is weak, and I sort of blame Putin a little bit on this.
Me too,
because he has ended up inadvertently sending a message to the West that Russia's either can't respond or won't respond, and whether out of weakness or fear. And Putin's been trying to be the adult in the room, but I think we're coming to the end of that, and out of this he's going to be compelled to strike back and strike back hard. And once that strike back starts, it's going to get a potential to get out of control. So I think a very high likelihood of an expansion in this war before the presidential election here in November.
Well, Larry, I heard Lloyd Austin, who also sits on the board of those weapons makers.
Raytheon.
I heard him say that there's no one specific capability, but it's as we add more, they can use multiple capabilities. My thing is this: for any logical person, Russia has already beaten Ukraine 3 times. They're beating them for the 4th time, and Ukraine was pushed as the most skilled and most trained and armed, quote unquote, ally in NATO. Outside of the United States. Now, if this is happening for the 4th time, this means that no matter what capability or what weapon that you introduce to this war, that Ukraine will not be able to overcome Russia's military advantage. And to put it bluntly, the United States cannot beat Russia in Europe in a land war. So why would they continue to push this escalation, knowing that they cannot beat Russia one-on-one in a land war, and they expect for Ukraine to beat Russia in a land war?
Well,
with, outdated weapons.
Yeah, they don't. But they don't believe that. They don't believe that. They genuinely believe that they can beat Russia. So they're not. They're not stepping back, going, "Oh man, we don't want to." It's like I'm smart enough to say, hey, I'm not getting in the ring with Mike Tyson. I'll go to dinner with Mike, but man, we ain't getting in the ring to trade punches, okay? because I have a proper respect for his abilities. But that's what's lacking here. The United States and Europe have no regard whatsoever for Russia's military capabilities and what it's able to do and has done. They view it as weak, and they believe their own. They keep bullshitting themselves. They keep telling themselves, "Oh, Russia's weak, and Russia's this, and Russia's running out of missiles." They've been lying to themselves for 2.5 years, and the problem is they believe their own damn lies.
And I know time is short, so I'm going to try to compact this. If they have come up with study after study saying that they can't beat Iran in the Middle East if a regional war breaks out, why do they think that they can beat the largest nuclear armed power in the world, and right now the best fighting force in the world?
Yeah, I used this the other day, but I think it's appropriate. Back in 1960, 59, Frank Capra made a movie called A Hole in the Head. And it featured Frank Sinatra. And, you grew up singing this too. Whoops, there goes another rubber tree plant, because they had high hopes. All right? That's what we got going on here, man. We got high hopes. Completely. And the high hopes are because they're either taking that meth or that crack cocaine, or they're hitting Uncle Doobie, something in there. But boy, nobody's got their judgment on straight. So yeah, just divorced from reality. It's crazy. They're desperate to avoid a loss. They're recklessly taking risk after risk of expanding this war. And, as you were, I think, alluding to it, yeah, boy, we're going to take on Russia, we're going to take on Iran, we're going to take on China. But, man, don't put us in the round with the Houthis, because the Houthis kicked our ass. You go, oh, God, okay. So maybe, yes, we got a really expensive aircraft carriers, but they could not hang with the Houthis. Mm-hmm. I'll write a song like that, hanging with the Houthis.
Do you believe that they'll be able? I mean, do you believe that they will come to their senses, or and try to hammer out a deal, or do you believe that they will continue to escalate until the empire is exposed to have no clothes on?
It's going to be until they're knocked out cold, laying on the canvas, and then we come to and go, what was that? What hit us? That's what it's going to take. It's going to take an ass whipping, frankly.
Sorry. Last question of the day for you, Larry, because I know you have to run. So they're losing in the Middle East and North Africa. They're losing in Ukraine and the Caucasus and the Balkans. What world are they living on to try to provoke China and pivot to Asia to try to make war with a power, with an industrial power that dwarfs all of them combined?
Yeah, as I said, it's asking the same question. Why does we just had a lawyer down here? He's arrested because he had set up all these trusts for all these old people, and he stole $6 million. And why? Because he had a gambling addiction at Hard Rock Casino. So he went there and he lost $1 million, and he went out and got some more money, and then lost another $1 million. Then he went and, this is not like he just did it one time and, oh my God, I can't do that. I learned my lesson. No, there's no learning going on here. That's what, they're doubling down. And we're like that degenerate gambler, the United States and Europe. They're going to double down on provoking this conflict with Russia, expanding it. And, we're going to wind up with a bloody nose.
So now it's Snake Eyes. They
Yeah.
rolled Snake Eyes. It's
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
Larry, thank you again for your great analysis, everybody. Larry is busy, so he has to go handle some stuff. We're going to have Larry back on a later date because he always brings the fire here. Okay. Thank you, Larry.
I'm always pleased to be with you, my friend. Thanks,
Hey,
Rashid.
be safe. Be blessed.
All right, brother. Bye.
Thank you. Everybody, listen. Join us back here at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll have journalist, Canadian patriot, author, and analyst, Matthew Ehret on the platform. Okay. Also coming in, we'll have coming up. I can only think of this off the top of my head right now. We'll have Larry Wilkerson back on. We're going to have Demetrius Lascaris back on. We're going to have my guy, the guru, the financial guru, Gregory Manarino, coming on at a later date this month too. And we'll have more guests. Hit the like button, share, and check your notifications to see if you've been unsubscribed, because we've had dozens and dozens of people telling us that they have been unsubscribed without they only found out. And if you go into the comment section, you'll see people saying that they found my site through some reference. So do your duty to promote the show by telling others about it, because they've taken us out the search engine. On that note, listen, we go out the same way we come in, with love in our heart for each and every one of you who loves truth. Know that I love you with all of my heart, but know that the love that I have for you pales in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous and do right by others, not because others are watching, but because it's the right thing to do. Because even when others aren't watching, the Almighty has a stayed view on you. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. I'm out of here. Peace.